Latiya City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
Erik Shaw has been a sure thing, and he's come back and he's going to give us another talk. He did a very nice talk, a shorter talk just a handful of weeks ago, really. Come on, Erik, and enlighten us about topic of business archaeology. Now, just before I hand over the mic, I have been warned this is very interactive, so there will be speakers runners and you'll be prompted to share stuff. And he does have some secret prizes to give away for people who participate, so get excited. Erik.
Thanks, Ren. Was anybody here at my last talk a few weeks ago? Yeah, all right, we're not talking about checklists more today. If you do have questions about checklists, happy to take them later. Today we're talking about another subject, which is business archaeology. Now, this doesn't really have much meaning on its own. It's a title that I came up with the other day. The subtitle suggests there's going to be some sort of a connection happening here, but not what that is. So let me just tell you a quick story about how I came up with this. Back when I heard that I might have an opportunity to come up here and speak to you all, I thought, geez, 45 minutes, that's a long time to prepare something. That's a long time to prepare for on a short notice. So maybe I need to kind of adjust my approach. Who am I speaking to here first? Whenever I've coached public speakers in the past, I always say, know your audience. So I said, okay, let's take it back to the basics. I don't think I want to rehash something that I've done before here or in the Toastmasters Club I'm a part of. Let's try something a little bit different. And I came up with this idea to learn from the collective wisdom and the knowledge in this room. Now, it's not lost on me that at 33 years old, I'm one of the younger folks here. And the work that I do today, project management, digital marketing, I work in a small business, like that probably is applicable with some of the skill sets that are here. But I have a theory that I want to test here in the first part of our conversation, which is that the folks in this room, regardless of where you're from in the world, what work you are doing or have been doing in the past, you have all the fundamental skill sets to do my job well. It's just there's an overlay of project management skills and things we don't have to get into. So let's go ahead and test that theory first. But that's kind of the genesis of this talk. So we're unearthing knowledge that we might not be aware that we actually have. And I'm just advancing the slides here real quick.
Is it on?
We're going to find out. I'll do it. Cheers, Ryan. Awesome. So this is the agenda we'll be following. We'll start by having that kind of theory test that I just mentioned a moment ago. Then we're going to take a look back in time. I know that the theory of relativity from Einstein suggests we can travel forward in time, but it might be impossible to go back. I'm here to prove Einstein's theory of relativity wrong. We are going to travel back in time. And then we'll go ahead and talk about what the future might look like, taking a step forward, and we're going to try to connect this experience all the way through. So let's try something new. Let's make it interactive. As Ren said, there will be some folks with microphones. I will have prompts for questions. We will have opportunities to raise our hands. In addition to that, I have these special prizes that I brought for everybody who chooses to stand and speak. It's not the fanciest thing in the world. Is anybody familiar with a blind box? What about Labubu? Pop Mart? Okay, so this might be a new concept to a lot of folks. Yeah, so it's just a little special surprise. Sure. There you go.
Bye-bye, I'm off now. Bye-bye.
I'll explain what it is later. All right, so let's start with a quick show of hands. As I mentioned, I really feel like the folks in this room have the core skill sets to do my job now, and I'm interested to test that with 3 quick questions here at the start, okay? So if anybody could just put your hand up if you've ever had to fix something that wasn't working. Okay? Right. How about coordinating a team or a group? Yep, and convincing somebody of your idea. Great. Fixing something that wasn't working, problem solving. Coordinating a team or group, stakeholder management, convincing somebody of your idea. Ultimately, that's what marketing is about. So now you are all qualified to be project managers and digital marketers. Let's take it a bit further. I think I have a lot to learn from this group, so I'm going to ask for a few kind of one-off experiences. If you do choose to answer one of these questions, there's really no bad answer. You can stand and speak for 30 seconds or 2 minutes, whatever you like, and you will get a prize. I cannot emphasize that enough. All right. So here's the first question for us to learn from here, if you might indulge me. Who all can share a time when you had to adapt your approach because the normal way wasn't working in your situation? Can you share a time when you had to adapt because the normal way wasn't working? Yes.
Yeah, I joined the Navy and tried to book the system. I soon found out 3 months later I got my arse kicked. Thank you.
Sure.
I was invited to manage a hospital's medical equipment program where they had service contracts on pretty much 90% of the equipment in that hospital. And I came up with the idea that we should hire our own staff and do those 90% of the work ourselves to eliminate those contracts. And I talked them into it, and it was quite successful.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you both. Ren, will you be distributing the prizes now or save for later?
Oh, go on.
Better get them out there now.
Hello, hello.
I think everybody understands. Yes, we have another one here.
Marriage.
Yes, very good.
And no further words are needed.
Excellent. Let me offer another one that I think we can relate to. Anybody have an experience at immigration that didn't quite go the way they planned?
Everybody in the room, I think.
That's right. There's a bit of international project management there when you come and deal with the new cultures. Second one, I was meant to say two there. Does anyone remember a project that should have taken weeks but just dragged on for months? It can be a work or a personal project.
Or years?
Years is okay too, Ren.
Okay, this is an example of the law of timing working against you, right? I put together a syndicate to do a property development in Western Australia. Western Australia was going crazy. I brought on board a partner from Western Australia that I didn't work out. But I thought, and I told investors, I said, look, the only thing that can stop you making a lot of money from this is basically three things. Bird flu pandemic in China, the revolution in China, bird flu pandemic worldwide, and the collapse of the US economy. And I said, by far the most likely of these is the collapse of the US economy. And I thought, maybe I could protect them from that, blah, blah, blah. 2008 happened. The global financial crisis. Let's not go into all that, but you can imagine what a big difference that made, yeah.
Thank you, Ren. We have another one in the back.
Microsoft.
You care to elaborate?
So when working on any project, you take a look at, what's required, what resources are needed, how much time it's going to take to complete each task, build your milestones, et cetera, et cetera. Then you introduce Microsoft into the equation, and their software is broken, and then you have to call for support, which doesn't exist, and then time just sort of dwindles and dwindles and dwindles, and you're behind schedule, and everybody that you're delivering the project for is pissed off because you're late, and you're pissed off because Microsoft won't cooperate, and down the drain the project goes.
I actually have a professional story to share about this as well. It'll be brief. Before I worked doing what I do now, I was actually in a corporate setting over at Agoda in Bangkok. And there was a new marketing kind of advertising partner we were getting up and running with. Now, I was more or less the project lead here, so I was in charge of making sure things like contract got signed and the ads got set up properly, et cetera, et cetera. We got stuck for a number of, I would say, 4 to 6 months more than we needed to, because I just didn't plan properly. And by the time we had gotten started, we had the wrong people there, and it was a bit chaotic. In fact, this project is going on before I even joined, so the whole thing probably took about 2 years. And had I actually done my job effectively, it probably could have been done in about 4 months. But I learned some very important lessons from that about analytical planning processes and the types of things I talked about last time we were here. Making sure I have the lay of the land properly set, making sure I know who the main players are before we actually get moving, and then ensuring that we have a North Star or an objective to kind of drive towards. So in my experience, that was a huge learning, and we'll move on to the third question now. All right. Has anyone had to explain something technical to non-technical people or a person? You're welcome to answer twice if you like.
Okay, so Brad, you'll appreciate this for sure. So this is another technology and a related question. It's something technical to non-technical people. So part of my tech background was first generation PCs. And for anybody who knows the TV show *Halt and Catch Fire*, that was the start of my tech life. And I had a retail computer store in Santa Cruz, California. And I ran a shop. And we were actually one of the first certified Bureau of Electronic and Appliance Repair shops. And of course, we had people buying computers, and with this, nobody knows what to do. It's everybody's first computer. And this was before we had remote video and things like that, and people would be calling me to say, try and figure out how to plug in the printer cable, okay? And I had to do it over the phone and imagine exactly what they saw and explain it to them in ways they could understand. And I was a woman running the shop, and a bunch of guys around me who were snickering because I go, now we have the male end mic and we have the female end, and the male end has the prongs that goes into the female end, and they were just falling over. But we basically had to explain things like that to get that to people. And another one was, somebody said, well, I need to print the contents, I need to print what's on my screen. Okay, Suzanne. Your keyboard, see that button that says print screen? Yeah. That's amazing! Anyway, those are my stories. I'm sticking to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a couple solutions to this. One is basically dumbing it down as much as possible, trying to use an analogy that people can relate to, like tied to something that people do, like eat or drive or something, and try to make an analogy is one way to do it. The best way I found is to find somebody who's less technical than me and get them to do it. It's called passing the buck. And I've got a little story. This is a true story. It came in on a support line for a major computer company. Customer calls in and says, my computer won't turn on. I push the button, nothing happens. Well, is it plugged in? I don't know. Let me get a flashlight and look. What do you need a flashlight for? Well, the power's out.
I've got one. This shows you what technical is, right? Swimming was a very important part of my exercise for many, many years. And I taught myself how to do tumble turns at the end of a lap. So I do a tumble turn and swim back. And this guy said, wow, that's really cool. Show me how to do that. So I explained a little bit of how to do it. You know, and he tried to do a tumble turn. He stood up and said, the water got up my nose. And I explained to him, you know, how he might stop that happening. He said, no, the water got up my nose. It's not for me. One attempt, and he gave up. Yeah, right? So, that still astounds me. I still use this as an example of the difference between good attitude and bad attitude. Just following quickly through, I put together this routine with good dancers, and it was so popular that a lot of other dancers wanted to do it, and they would and there was a really interesting move to start off. And the good dancers, we had some problems with it, and some women bumped their heads on the floor, not badly, and I changed the move and how it was done, adapting. And then it's made it safer. Then I tried to teach it to the non-select dancers, and it was like, you know, they try it once, it's like, I can't do this move, right? Oh no, it's too hard, whatever. One attempt. And it's like, this was the difference between the good dancers and the bad dancers, was this persistence and going, okay, I'm going to keep doing this until I can get it. Very important life lesson for everybody, really. Over here.
I'm a surgeon, and my breakthrough is to tell the patient, you're sure to find the answer on YouTube and Google, and that's all you need.
I've got one too. I was a school librarian, and back in the early 90s, I went to a technology committee meeting for our school district, and the assistant superintendent, who was the leader, announced that all the elementary school libraries were now automated, so meaning the card catalog was online. Well, what actually happened was, in my library one day, a box with an IBM computer, and into the box with about 25 floppy disks showed up. And it was just sitting there. There was no data about the library, like, you know, the author, the title, or any of that stuff that you needed. But the program wasn't even installed, and nobody gave me the password or anything. So that was fully automated.
Some of these stories make me think of that show. I think it's called The IT Guys.
Yeah.
In the UK. And for those of you who don't know, it's about an IT support team. And microphone back there, please. Okay. It's about an IT support team, and their catchphrase was, "Did you turn it off and on again?" Because 90% of the time that would resolve the issue.
John?
I actually had an experience. I used to work in financial technology, and that means that we were dealing with investment firms of like billions of dollars worth of capital. So when something didn't go right with our technology or our network, then they couldn't trade, and the market would continue moving, doing what it does, and they would be losing sometimes thousands of dollars a minute. So at the end of the day, you know, even that level of pressure and that level of importance doesn't prevent silly things from happening. There was one key network provider who we kind of partnered with. They had a router plugged into the wall, which apparently a mouse had got to. And by the time the power went down, they had to like kind of go back behind all the servers and get it all sorted out. And lots of people lost a lot of money, but something as simple as a cable, as we heard before, or just losing power can really have that impact. So, next one.
Yeah, explaining something technical to my Thai wife. I decided not to do it again. And the other thing was Brian trying to teach me how to use a computer. I think he'd give up. So I just invited him for Sunday lunch, that's all.
So there was no breakthrough? Yeah, okay. Okay, great. So these three questions were meant to kind of further test that theory I had presented to you all earlier. Now, this was something that I thought was really interesting to me as I progressed in my career. As I mentioned, I did financial technology. So I was in IT for a while. I did networking, project management, digital, everything that I've done. There's kind of been this through line of a core skill set, which is what I mentioned earlier, stakeholder management, problem solving, etc. These are all skills that you all have demonstrated in the context of everything from surgery to bird flu. And now I think that I've more or less proven this theory true. The way that I look at it is like these skills are the phone itself. Okay, so we all have a phone with a case on it, right? But this phone is the hardware, this phone has the technology, but then you install an operating system on it, then you put a case on it later. And these are things that we add like digital marketing skill sets. These are things that we add like, I don't know, using technology of 2025, but the core skill sets were still relevant decades ago and in all sorts of different contexts. That's something that I found fascinating as I progressed through my career, and I'm glad that you all indulged me a little bit here today. So thank you everyone for your participation who's gotten up and spoken. Now we'll progress on to part 2. As I said, we're going back in time. I will have 3 different eras here, and if you all could just put yourself in the shoes of where you were back in these times, I'm not going to ask you to comment on them just yet. About pre-social media. This is one that I remember, okay? Pre-email? Yep. Pre-cell phones. In fact, this is one that I don't remember. The reason why I bring this up is because the next section we're going to talk about the technology of the future, and the future is now, actually. That's AI, okay? So just before we proceed there, I wanted to make a quick comment on all these different things because I'm pretty sure that the people in this room have been hearing all sorts of different news about AI. Seems like folks here are pretty well plugged into the news. There's probably differing levels of experience with AI, but I want to make the point that each of these 3 technological revolutions, if you will, they changed the game. And I think that there was a common pattern as we went through them. One is they probably felt complicated or overwhelming or even unnecessary when they came out. I know it took me a while to get onto social media. In fact, I probably had graduated high school before I even set up a Facebook page. I was always a little bit nerdy. But that kind of uncertainty eventually leads to learning and embrasure when the technology is important enough. And I do believe that AI potentially is one of these technologies. So I don't know if anyone has a story to share here, but especially for the pre-cell phone thing, because that's actually before my time. Does anybody remember when cell phones were introduced and kind of what it felt like when they came out? Was there some circumstance whereby it was just this newfangled contraption, like this is ridiculous or it feels like a fad? Or did you actually realize it would be here to stay and develop into smartphones, etc.?
I certainly remember when they came out, and I'm old enough to recall a phone on the wall, the crank. My neighbor's listening into my calls. So having this little thing in my husband's hand saying, we can make calls on this, I was terrified. All of the hype at that particular time was how our privacy was going to be impacted, and we were, like, the hype was totally fear-centered. And that's exactly how I felt. Like, don't bring this into the house, I don't want any part of it. And I learned shortly that, wow, it's just taken over, hasn't it?
Yeah. When mobile phones first came out, I was a courier. Okay, that better? Yeah. So I was a courier working in Sydney, and one of the guys got one of the new car phones, and that just changed the game totally because they'd ring him direct rather than radioing him, so he used to get all of the work. And then I was sailing, and the owner of the boat got the brick, which was something like that, it stood like that, and pulled it out while we were sailing and making phone calls, and at sea that was just amazing.
Is that like the Gordon Gekko Wall Street?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Did you want to?
I can remember
him first and then
car from Hertz and getting a Motorola brick phone. This was no little phone like this. big brick, and I was just amazed at how it worked. And then when I took it back, I had to pay the roaming fees, so that hurt my feelings. Things have really changed, so learning process.
Just speak into it, yeah? Okay. I think obviously the biggest revelation was the movement from the battery you took round on a supermarket cart to the phones we have now. But also, not just with mobile phones, but with computers and everything else, when you talk about the loading process, what they've actually done is over time, they've dumbed it down to make it simpler for people to learn how to, not dumb down what it does, they've dumbed down what you need to know to make it work. So by doing that, they've made it more usable to a bigger audience. Yeah. When computers came out at first, and mobile phones and emails, the first email I ever sent, the address I had to send it to was was not like fred@aol.com. It was almost a QWERTY and hexadecimal address. Now back then you wouldn't bother using it. It was easier to pick up the phone and speak to the guy. But slowly over time, everything has been simplified to make the use of it much easier. And that's why we now are able to use these things so much simpler than we were when they were initiated.
Yeah, I came from the world of sales, and I remember pre-cell phones where I used to have a pager, and the pager would ring, and that meant that I had to call the office to get the message. And then new technology came out, which a pager that actually had the name and the it was numerical, and that was the number I needed to call. I didn't know who called, but I knew there was a number there that I had to call back. And then came the alpha numerical pagers, and then now you knew the name and the phone number of the person you had to call. And then it evolved that we used to get the car phones with the antenna on the back of your car, and you would have it planted there, and you could make your call. AudioVox, I think, was the first one that I had. And then from there came the cell phone. And the cell phone, the original one that I had, the battery was it was like almost like a car battery, and you lugged it around with you, and then I think Motorola came out with something, and it just evolved, all about good communication and getting to people quickly. So it was pretty good, quite an evolution.
Excellent. When cell phones came out back in the late 80s, I was actually working for a phone company, so I was playing with the stuff on the back end that actually made it go. So, understanding the technology and knowing what was involved to actually facilitate that. But you're missing something major off your time traveling slide. You missed the internet.
Yep.
Like the internet is what facilitates email and social media, and cell phones predate the internet, but once the internet got connected to the cell phone, that really opened up connectivity, because now you've got the internet in hand, is where we're at today. And I remember times before that where when you wanted to communicate with somebody, you had to pick up the phone and talk to them, and that was the only way. And then people came, then they invented the modem so computers could talk, and you had bulletin boards, so that was sort of a precursor to the internet and what the internet looks like today.
Over here.
Excellent. All right, let's do one more.
One of my jobs in my early career was to assess the danger from the cell towers. Because there was so much going on with regard to people getting radiation from mobile phones, I had to go out and assess the position of cell towers to see whether or not it was a danger to local schools or any other establishments. So at that time, I don't know what's happened to the danger. Has the danger disappeared now? Anybody answer that?
Thanks everyone for your stories. All right, let's progress to the next and final section of this presentation, and that's moving forward into the future, right? As I mentioned, AI is kind of the hot new technology here. You could think of it maybe as the new cell phone, although you don't have to carry it around. It's a bit easier to use now, and it's free, so no roaming charges. A quick survey of the room. Has anybody here used ChatGPT or AI recently? Yeah. Has anybody been curious but not quite ready to use it? And is anybody actively opposed to using it? Very open-minded group, if you're being honest. Right, so as I mentioned, this potentially is the new cell phone. Obviously, this image was generated with AI. In this case, I use Meta AI, which is a free image generator, of which there are numerous options out these days. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of tips I have for folks who might be using it already or might be getting into it, because I'm by no means a power user, but I am kind of the layman who uses it for work and for personal uses, and I have experience with a few different AIs. So I want to share with you all some of my experience. So just as a quick disclaimer, take this as a grain of salt. I might not have all of the most up-to-date AI news because it's probably changed since I started speaking here. But the first thing I want to say is that it's basically like a smart assistant for everything you could ever imagine, right? But there's going to be two kind of pro tips I have for you if you start using it as your assistant. Now, an assistant is somebody who works for you almost like a team member you might be managing in the office. And it's important to use your judgment with the value that comes out of AI. Now, a lot of folks get into these situations where they might be new to it, it might seem overly convincing. In fact, it's just sometimes hallucinating, or it's just trying to make some predictions for what the next word might be, and maybe it's not always right. Or maybe this image I showed you a moment ago is not the first one that you get. You have to refine it a little bit. So just like the people who I used to manage at work, I go back and forth with the AI over time to make sure that, hey, don't do this, please stop doing this, please do this, and be very specific with my prompts. That brings me to the second point I want to make here, which is has to do with the types of prompts and questions that you're asking the thing. So nowadays it's not just questions, sometimes you're telling it to do something, and usually the more detail you give, the better. If something is more specific, it will give you a more specific result. The way I like to think of it is if you're doing something very basic, that was time for suspense. If you're doing something very basic, like, hey, please give me a marketing plan, it will give you a marketing plan. If you ask for something like a vacation to Thailand, it will probably give you a starter vacation to Thailand. It's not going to know whether you like spicy food or not. It's not going to know if you have a bad knee and you don't like to walk places. So it's important to add all the different color and all the different details you can and assess the information as it comes out. But with time, you can get, and I know this from experience, better and better at prompting it for your specific use cases. Now, I'm not going to go into all the different things that are out there today, like projects and the latest features of the AI models, but I will do a quick, if I can manage, brainstorm with ChatGPT, just to show you all how fast this is nowadays, in case maybe you haven't used the voice mode recently. We're going to see if we can connect this to the microphone. Are you there?
I'm here and ready to help. How can I assist you today?
Great. I have a book idea. It's going to be a sci-fi romance title. And really, I don't have any ideas beyond the title, and I don't like the title that I have. I just want to get some important titles that I might want to consider, and then I'll start developing the outline from there. So can you give me 5 book titles for a sci-fi romance, and then make them interesting enough that I might want to read it and write the story about it later?
Absolutely, that sounds fun. Here are 5 title ideas for your sci-fi romance. 1, Starlit Hearts, a tale of love that transcends the galaxies and time. 2, Quantum Love, when 2 souls meet across dimensions, the universe rewrites itself. 3, celestial bonds, a journey of love in the vast expanse of space and time. 4, galactic embrace, love spark in the midst of interstellar adventure. 5, nebula of the heart, exploring love in the mysterious depths of the cosmos. Hopefully one of those sparks some inspiration for you.
Yeah, not yet. We're in Pattaya, and it's a very exciting place, so there's going to be some action. Can you give me just one high-impact, energetic title that implies some sci-fi, romance, and action?
Absolutely. How about Stellar Heat, Love and Chaos in Pattaya? It captures that energetic vibe with a mix of sci-fi, romance, and action.
All right, you get the idea. Pretty cool, right? So that brings me to the second point I wanted to make here, that it's an excellent, excellent brainstorming partner. Just like the teams I used to manage at work, at the end of the day, things go through me. It's my judgment that makes the call on what actually goes through to the final stage and what I present to my clients now. But this is a great way for me to come up with some ideas and just have a conversation with somebody, even when there's nobody in the room. And by the way, I was using ChatGPT. That's not the AI I subscribe to. So this is the free plan offering me this, and I could have had, I think, 5 or 6 different accents to choose from there too. Good fun. Yeah, and the final point is just speed. If you're using it for brainstorming, that's one thing. If you're using it for researching and combing the internet, I think that's a whole other thing. It's like, the way I've heard it termed is it's like having a team of PhDs in your pocket. But you saw how fast that was, right? It's going to be that fast too if I'm asking a more complicated question. You can always turn on something called a thinking mode or a reasoning model that will take its time and give you something like a longer essay. But typically, if you just want to do any sort of the tasks that I do at my work or any sort of my day-to-day things, I'm doing it in bite-sized chunks. And I'm doing my research through this. And then I'm asking for the citations and I'm going to those sources. I'll give you one example of how I've used it recently. Back when I lived in Australia, so this was a number of years ago, I used to play basketball in a league setting. And it was a lot of fun, it was a lot of jumping, and I was about 6 years younger then. I just got back into basketball a few weeks ago, and I started to feel this tightness right in the small of my back here. It was a very specific thing that I was unfamiliar with, and I thought, let's give ChatGPT a shot at this. I think if I'm going to go to Google, I can probably find some videos and some info, maybe 30, 40 minutes. I'll do a bunch of reading, but it's not going to be tailored to me right away. ChatGPT will. And in fact, it was. I gave it the information about, hey, I'm returning to basketball. This is my general fitness level. This is what I'm feeling. I think it's from all the kind of jumping that I'm doing, which I hadn't been doing in my exercise before. And I got a diagram of 9 different stretches I can take to the court and just refer to this diagram. I put the phone next to me and I get down on the ground, I do these 9 stretches, and then I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to play. That's the kind of power that comes out with a number of seconds and 2 to 3 prompts. So you can imagine kind of the range of use cases that there might be, from having a team of PhDs in your pocket to just getting some stretches for you for basketball. And now, just conscious of the time, I'll quickly connect the 3 different sections. For those of you with a keen eye, you might see that these section titles almost present themselves as a sentence. And that was actually not intentional when I put this together. But I strongly believe that the experience we have here is going to make us better at using the technology of today. I already showed you all how it would make me better by learning from you all, how you've done things, you've overcome challenges, some even before I was born, to be honest. That makes me better in my job doing project management and digital marketing, right? Now, I just mentioned a moment ago that your judgment is critical to getting the most out of AI. We all have lived experiences here, we're all intelligent people. That's going to make us better as we move forward into the future. And that's why we were unearthing the knowledge in business archaeology. Thank you.
Can I just make a couple of comments about AI? I use it quite a bit, and I'll agree it's a powerful tool, but it's also got drawbacks that you need to be aware of. One of the things that it's being used for in college and university is kids are using it to write papers, which obviously isn't the intention. So this one teacher came up with a really good project. She said, I want you to use AI, and I want you to have it write a 1,000-word paper on a topic of your choice, and then your assignment is to find all the stuff that's wrong with it. Because it does make stuff up. The other notable one, actually two notable ones. Another one was a couple of lawyers used AI to draft a court document and had it submitted, and used it to fight their case. And then it turned out later on when they went through the briefing, the cases that it was citing as precedents never existed. AI made them up, and the lawyers got disbarred because they never checked their information. And the third one just escaped me. Oh well, easy come, easy go.
Yeah, I would just respond to that quickly, that I totally agree with you. And that's why I started to think of it as that smart assistant or an analyst on my team at work. You know, when I used to work at Agoda, I used to manage teams, and sometimes they would give me data that looked great, but actually it was the wrong data, or they did things incorrectly, or I didn't quite guide them properly in the first place. So I'm always kind of analyzing things through that filter as if it's one of the analysts I used to manage at work. I think that helps us kind of filter out some of the hallucination and that kind of thing, rather than just taking this as gospel and submitting it right away. Next question.
Hi, thank you. This is quite nice. The problems with AI will make themselves quite apparent, but it's fantastic stuff. The problem may be in government asking too many people to use it, when in fact there are so many people in every society who have limited skills. Are they going to be replaced? How are they going to be replaced? How are they going to earn any money at all to take care of their own families? And governments have to keep this in mind. You have this morning I came in by highway, one of the toll roads. There are 15, 20 people there. Their intellectual ability is probably not extremely high. They're doing a job that is very repetitious, boring me out of my mind. I couldn't possibly do it. However, they're doing it, and they're paying for their families, and they're buying gas and food and everything else that they need to buy. You can't get rid of these people without having alternatives. Now, let me go a step further. 1990 or so, 91, I'm in Thailand. I have to get to Rangsit University. The owner of Rangsit is also the owner of Phaya Thai 2 Hospital, and is also running for the House, Speaker of the House, whatever. So I want this contact, right? We've got a meeting going. And I'm a little too late because the taxis on the soak, they're all taken. So I hop on a bus. And it's crowded, and I'm holding on, and the phone goes off, and about 7 young girls grab their own phones. Young kids. They're the ones who think of this and need it first. They're the ones who are going to revolutionize any of these new technologies. Because you come from a place like I come from, you got alternatives. A lot of these people in the Philippines and in other places you haven't even thought of in years as being sophisticated. No, they're not sophisticated. But individuals in that society are going to knock your block off. They're terrific. And because they're so highly motivated, they're going to reinvent things that we haven't thought of. It's quite interesting. One other thing. The phone. How many of you called to get a date? Back when? And was the phone in the kitchen? Where the rest of the family was? And the mother gets on and said, yeah, who are you? What do you want with my daughter? huh? Are you really going to, that's when you get click, and you hope to run into her somewhere because you have no other way to communicate. And the phone comes out, and again, all of these young kids have their own phone. My son and daughter, the first set of son and daughter, they're on the phone right away. And you're right, the roaming costs were awful. But you have to negotiate these things to lower it down. They are the ones who will innovate because they see the need the greatest. Thank you for that.
Hi, thank you for that, Erik. This could be a statement or a question. Because looking at the future, or even at the present right now, we know that depression or anxiety are causing a lot of people as problems wherever they are in the world, different ages. So this is a common issue. Looking at AI now, people are talking to these different people in the internet using AI, and different people, they're even talking like having a date online with all this AI. So if you go home and you are not talking to anyone, they can just chat with someone, I'm sad, and AI will respond to you. Do you think that in the future will be, this will impact the lesser depression and anxiety case in the world, or you don't need to go out to socialize because you have any person to talk to in AI, because there's different apps for this AI thing and all. You can access anyone, you can watch anything, but you can also have someone to talk to anyone, and you can choose who you want to talk to as well. What do you think? Thank you.
You said that could be considered a statement, not a question? Next.
I remembered the third one. The model ChatGPT-01, they were shutting it down to do some maintenance on it, and it realized that it was being shut down, so it copied itself to another server as a means of self-preservation. They discovered this, and then they questioned about it, and then it denied and said it didn't do it. It's like, does Terminator come to mind, anybody?
It's kind of...
I've been using ChatGPT for some time, but I've changed recently, doing more talking to the ChatGPT, and I've been teaching other people how to use it. And now I would mention an example. I have a Thai assistant that should give daily reports, and the assistant doesn't speak one word of English. We took the mobile phone and he said in Thai, I'm now saying things that I would like you to translate into English. Send it. And ChatGPT said, yes, come on. He just went on telling, oh, this morning I did this, then I had a problem with a motorbike, then I did this, then I did this, and send it. And it came back with a completely good English result of his day. And he just copied that, put it into line, and sent his daily report. So my advice is, if you talk about the society's problem with the AI and losing jobs and so on, that's a different subject altogether. If you talk about you using ChatGPT yourself, it's many levels. In the beginning you would ask, what is the highest mountain in this and this province? And it would give you an answer. Simple. But the new way is to start to talk to ChatGPT like a friend and say, oh, I don't like that answer, could you do something better and more in this and this way? Send. And do you remember what we talked about recently? And the ChatGPT, yes, okay, do it again, but in a different way. Test out how you talk. Just put the record button and you talk whatever your own language. Language doesn't matter. I'm Norwegian, if I talk Norwegian, it would reply to me in Norwegian. And I just would say, ooh, that's okay for Norwegian, but I want it in English. And it doesn't. And the translation is in my experience, better than other translation programs. And there is no limit. When you see a form in Thai, you just take the whole form that we should fill out, and you said, make this in English, and afterwards you upload the form, and you get all the form translated into English with the same places where you can put the information, with the same layout, same everything, and you don't need to worry. You can print it out and you can know what you are signing. So my advice is the new direction of ChatGPT is think of it as your assistant. Think of it as just placing logic question and learn more about the communication with the ChatGPT. And yeah, that is. And for the teenagers that I've been teaching, they get a lot of interest, and all of a sudden you have something that competes with gaming. You can do funny things, and you can be only Thai speaking, doesn't matter. You have your Thai friend in there that would ask, reply you anything. You just say your age, and I want a job that I can get more money. You can, no question is too stupid. And the Thai DPT would try to tell you where to go in your district and what is the telephone number for this place and this place. It's unlimited. So just learn how to use it yourself with normal language.
Brian.
Yes. I think one of the things that struck me about ChatGPT is it remembers you and remembers things conversations you'll have in the past. And so it actually gets to, in a sense, know you personally and say, oh, could this help your such and such? And this is an interesting idea. I hope you don't mind if I share this story. It's a bit weird, really. But many years ago, when I changed my name, I also was given a name that I was told was my spiritual name, right? And it was Pramata. And I thought, that sounds like Sanskrit. And I was told it meant finder of truths, right? So, but how do you look up Sanskrit and get translations from Sanskrit, right? So recently, only less than a week ago, I asked ChatGPT, is there a word in Sanskrit like Pramata? And it said, yes, there is. I said, what's it mean? It means the truth, and and I said, could it mean as a name finder of truth? And they said, yeah, it could. It's like a poetic use of it. And that's really weird, really. But how would I have found that out without AI? Because AI was capable of asking that question to it and coming back with an answer. So there you go.
So I was just going to say about AI is that now you talked about your back and your problem. The real danger is going to be when the insurance company can get hold of that data and all of a sudden know that you asked a question about a back and you're applying for a policy and they say no, or they say the price goes up. So that's the kind of dark side.
Yeah, it's also true that doctors, in terms of diagnoses, ChatGPT will doubtlessly be better than doctors because it will be up to date with the latest technology. It won't become emotionally attached to its diagnosis. It won't say, oh no, I'm a doctor, I must be right, or anything like that. And of course, doctors' robots doing operations won't get tired and grumpy and stuff like that. So yeah, you were thinking about people without high levels of skills. Some of the most skilled jobs could be really, in danger and stuff. So, the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Very interesting times. And a very interesting talk and a great interesting sharings from everybody. Thank you. I'm afraid I couldn't get ChatGPT to actually present the certificates yet. But by the way, all right, just hold that. This is for today's talk. Now, thank you for that 2 talks and giving a talk at such short notice. Well done, Erik.